welcome to Hamtramck. I'd like to invite you to come in and get, there's a few more chairs left if you'd like to sit. My name's Bill Meyer. I'm with the OneHamtramck organization, the executive director. It's one of the organizations, thank you, that are organizing today's event in support of the Yemeni people. Thank you to the other three sponsors of this event, MECAWI, we'll hear from MECAWI later. Women in Black, we'll hear from Peace Action in Michigan for co-sponsoring this event. Thank you so much. Several local activists were asked to say a few words in support of the Yemen people. I'm sure there are many others who would also like to say something, but we have a limited time today. Next rally, we'll have you speak too. We've asked that there be no politicians, no candidates, there'll be no campaigning, and there will be no Yemenis speaking today. We are not taking any position on the Sunni, Shia, Saudi Arabia, Houthi side. We're here to support the Yemeni people in their struggle to solve their problems. We want to end the war. We want to ban the Muslim ban. And we want to fight Islamophobia. We're very glad that we could find a way to work together. We have to work together. This community has been here a long time in Hamtramck. It's been here since the 50s. This is for non-Yemenis to reach out and support the Yemeni people who are facing severe challenges with a war that's devastating the country. Thousands are being killed. Cholera epidemic. They're fighting the so-called ban, Muslim ban, and which is wreaking havoc with their families, attempting to come in and out of this country. And also the threat of ICE taking loved ones away is in the near future. And the constant anti-Muslim Islamophobia that we all know that Muslims have to deal with. So they're dealing with many problems on many levels, and we're here to support them and try to find ways to bring them to a level of justice and equality in America here. If that's possible, we can do that. We want to give everybody a chance to be equal here. You should know that Hamtramck is the only American city that is a Muslim majority. We have probably 60, 70% maybe Muslims in this city. And it's our opportunity, it's a great opportunity for Hamtramck to prove to the world that people of all religions, all ethnicity, and all beliefs can live together in harmony. We're going to try to find a way to do that here in Hamtramck. And it'll be an example. Thank you. We're in front of the Yemen Arab mural here. This beautiful piece of artwork here. That was, it's the only one of its kind in America. OneHamtramck helped create this. This was our project 3-4 years ago. It was painted by Tarik Fernandez from Chile. His name is on the top left corner up there, Tarik. We did this project to bring attention to the vibrant and unique Yemeni community that exists in this part of the city for over 50 years. It brings pride and respect for the Yemeni history and its culture, and draws attention to the businesses and the people who live in this area, who have for so long been marginalized in Hamtramck history. They've been here a long time and they have not been part of the city's governance. It's filled with icons from their homeland of Yemen. The Shiva monument is in the headdress of this farmer here. The stone castle, the amazing skyscrapers. That's the first country in the world that had skyscrapers, Yemen. These are icons for Yemenis. The patterns in the face, and the young face, the young child here who's draped in the sky, as the artist said, rather than a mask. This is freedom to him when you're draped in the sky. These are trees from the island of Socotra, which is off the country of Yemen. And they're distinct to that area in the world. And he colored them to match into the hijab of the young lady on the end. So that it went from organic to inorganic. This amazing concept of history going to the center sun right here. And for those of you people sitting out there, if you look at these eyes, you can see your reflection in the eyes. This is an amazing mural representing Yemeni Arab history and culture. So we want to thank you for coming here in front of this mural where we felt this would be the most appropriate place to lend our support and love to the Yemeni people. We stand here now. Thank you. So we stand here now to listen to some of the prime activists in the community, speaking from their own point of view and their own words. There'll be different points of views. You may agree with them, not, doesn't matter. We respect the people who are speaking because they're very respected people in the activist community. And they've all been asked to keep their comments to 4 minutes. So we have a little timer up here, which might work, it might not. But we hope this whole rally's over in an hour because we have about 13 speakers for you. And we're going to start out with the one that, I'm not going to pick my favorites, but I want to tell you that this lady has astounded me ever since I've known her. She's associate pastor of Westside Unity Church currently, senior pastor, and she's the host of a radio TV show called Wake Up Detroit. But she's a former executive director of Detroit NAACP. She's a former Detroit City Council president and has been recognized by The Nation magazine in 2009 as the most valuable local elected official in the USA. I mean, we all know that. We've all seen her many times. She's a powerful speaker and she has passion. We love her so much that she came to speak to us today. Let's welcome Reverend Dr. JoAnn Watson.
First of all, thank you very much, Bill Meyer. Thanks to all of you for being here. You can look at me and tell I'm of African descent, but the truth is I'm at one with Yemeni people. I am at one with Yemeni people. I read the Amnesty International report this week that said crimes of war being committed against Yemeni people. Crimes of war. Amnesty International reported that this week. There is terrorism going on. There is confinement going on. There's violence going on. There's separation of families going on. There are innocent people being killed, being confined, who are being denied human rights. There's an attack on people around the world because of a ban on travel. That does not represent who we are. We say no. We say no to disrespect. We say no to disregard. We say no to dishonoring the humanity of Yemeni people. Ashe? Ashe. Let us come together as one, because we are one people, because we really have one common goal, and that is to have our rights, our families respected and whole and well. And as we come together as we are doing tonight, we're doing honor to not only those who are being dishonored, we do honor to our own children and children yet born. And we honor our ancestors who are peeking over the curtains, wondering who's going to stand for what's right, wondering who's going to fight for what's right, wondering who's going to take evil down. We declare our oneness right now. Right now. Right now.
Thank you so much. Reverend Dr. JoAnn Watson. Listen to her radio show, Wake Up Detroit. She's got a lot to say. And if you see her bio, I mean, it's like pages and pages. She's done so many things in her life that she doesn't give up. She's one of the strongest, most active activists that I know. Thank you, JoAnn, for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, we have many people from the clergy here today, and we're very appreciative of the work that the religious community does to help address these issues of injustice. Reverend Richard Peacock is a co-chair of Peace Action of Michigan. The Peace Action educates 2,200 households in Michigan to lobby for the abolition of nuclear weapons and diplomatic resolutions to global conflict, like the war in Yemen. Rich was in Washington, D.C. in February, lobbying the senators and representatives to vote to stop the U.S. support of the Saudi coalition in its bombing of Yemen. Here's Reverend Richard Peacock.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you for this opportunity. It's good to see you all on such a beautiful evening. It was an honor to lobby Michigan's representatives in Congress last February to curtail our country's support for the deadly war in Yemen. In addition, in June, the Michigan Conference of the United Methodist Church voted to end U.S. assistance for the United States military action on Yemen. representatives from over 700 United Methodist churches in Michigan went on record calling on our senators to stop the U.S. participation in warring on Yemen. The war on Yemen is deadly for civilians. The bombs from the bombers, guided by the U.S., have exploded on refugee camps, hospitals, homes, and weddings. The U.S. sold bombs to the Saudis, the Mark 84 bombs made in Garland, Texas. You can even see pictures of those bombs on public television's NewsHour. Those bombs are deadly on Yemen. The war on Yemen is deadly because the U.S. is supplying intelligence for bombing Yemen. Our tax dollars are deadly because 60% of the Yemeni people, some 18 million, are food insecure, and 8.4 million are only a step away from famine. The war on Yemen is counterproductive. The people in Yemen see the evidence of American warring, and their anger against the United States is growing. Some now shout death to America. We say death must stop. Death must stop. We say the violence must stop. The violence must stop. We say war must stop. War must stop. We say death must stop. Death must stop. We who believe in peace, repeat after me. We who believe in peace, will not rest until it comes. We who believe in diplomacy, will not rest until it comes. We who believe in justice, will not rest until it comes. Peace to all.
How's everybody doing today? Good. Right now, I want to invite to the microphone Abayomi Azikiwe. He is also part of the MECAWI, Michigan Emergency Committee Against War and Justice, co-sponsor of this event. Abayomi also former executive director for Michigan Coalition for Human Rights, and he's also a teacher, a professor at Wayne State University. So here is Abayomi Azikiwe.
Thank you so much. I want to give my appreciation to Bill Meyer, a well-known artist, a musician here in the city of Detroit, who is always willing to extend his hand, to extend his artwork to benefit the people not only of this area but throughout the world. The Michigan Emergency Committee Against War and Injustice has been in existence since 2002. We oppose all imperialist wars. We oppose the United States foreign policy in the region of the world known as the Middle East, in Africa, in Asia, the Caribbean, South America, and wherever else. Our tax dollars, our resources are being used to kill innocent people in any part of the globe.
Shame.
In Yemen, there are African people who look just like me, who have been there for thousands upon thousands of years. Yemen is separated from the Horn of Africa only by the Red Sea, a very, very small piece of water. It's located near one of the most strategic and one of the most lucrative shipping lanes in the world. The Gulf of Aden, of course, is a flashpoint for imperialist intrigue, particularly over the last several years. Even prior to March of 2015, when Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, utilizing U.S. warplanes, U.S. bombs, U.S. intelligence coordinates, and U.S. diplomatic cover, began a daily reign of terror down upon the people of Yemen, the war was already on. There were drone attacks that killed people, mostly innocent people, on a regular basis in Yemen. And these attacks were carried out by people right here in this country utilizing our tax dollars and purportedly in our own name. We do not support that. There's never been a vote, there's never been a debate about U.S. foreign policy towards Yemen. Moreover, if the people of Yemen themselves were allowed to determine their own destiny, the war would end rather rapidly. But this is not happening. And even worse, and I want to say this in concluding, this is a war, a genocidal war that's being hidden from the people here in the United States. There's virtually no information being put out across the United States media about what is going on in Yemen. We have been writing about it. We have been discussing it for years. Yet the corporate media, who has far more resources than we do, say absolutely nothing about what is going on in Yemen. The war, of course, has continued over successive administrations, both Democratic and Republican. And there appears to be no end in sight. So we are here today to say, peace for Yemen. Let's raise this question to the U.S. Senate and the U.S. Congress, to the U.S. President. Let's demand all U.S. aid is withdrawn from the war machine that's raining down havoc among the people in Yemen. We have the largest humanitarian crisis of anywhere else in the world, the largest cholera outbreak of anywhere else in the world, and most people in this country know absolutely nothing about it. So we say, we stand with the people of Yemen for peace, justice, equality. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Abayomi. That's great. Great words. We have a lot to learn about Yemen. Like he says, the Western media just doesn't tell us everything we need to know. So seek out the other media whenever you can and find out both sides of the story, always. Both sides, or many sides of the story. Check them all out. It's not only the corporate media that has the answer. There's been 4 groups that sponsored this rally today. OneHamtramck is one of them, MECAWI, and Peace Action, and also Women in Black. And I'm going to introduce you now to one of the founders of Women in Black, who happens to also be my co-sponsor in life, and she's also co-director of OneHamtramck. And I'd like to invite her up to say a few words about Yemen. Twyla Meyer.
Have everyone join us tomorrow down at Campus Martius at noon. Saturday, down at Campus Martius at noon for our Women in Black vigil against war and violence. Thank you. And this is with a heavy heart. Thank you all for coming out and supporting the Yemeni community of Hamtramck in Yemen. We are Women in Black, people of all racial and ethnic heritage, and we oppose the use of violence and terror against the people of Yemen. Here in Hamtramck, we oppose a potential suspension of civil liberties and/or of the detention of individuals based on their religion or ethnicity. I say, end the violence, ban the ban. End the violence, ban the ban.
Thank you, Twyla Meyer. And next on our program, we have such distinguished friends. This is so amazing. You guys are all so special. I just want to tell you that because this is such a difficult subject. Yemen, here, this small little corner of Hamtramck here, and there's Yemenis in Dearborn also. Thank you so much for your concern and for your participation and involvement. Many activists out here and many new people, so we're going to spread the word and start working and defending the Yemeni people against the struggles that they're facing. This is a great turnout. We appreciate you being here. Next, we have with us another great leader in our activist community. He's the pastor emeritus of Central United Methodist Church in Detroit. He's a co-chair of Michigan chapter of the Methodist Federation for Social Action. He's a member of the People's Water Board. He's a committed activist in the Poor People's Campaign, which is a national call for moral revival, as well as many other justice-seeking efforts. Wherever any issues of justice are being dealt with, this gentleman is there. Ladies and gentlemen, Reverend Ed Rowe.
Well, I want to make an announcement first. One of the people who was supposed to speak here today was David Bullock, but about 2 hours ago, his father died. So if you know the Reverend David Bullock, or the Reverend Sam Bullock, his father, I suggest you send energy, love, and peace to him, who would want to be here today, but is in fact mourning. It is a great honor to be here, but the subject is white supremacy. That's the we've had white supremacy move into the White House, but it simply gives permission to the white supremacy, white privilege, white male privilege that's been here all along. It takes the cork out of the bottle of the sin of racism that has been part of our heritage. This is not the first time we separated people from their families. We separated Native Americans from their children. We separated African Americans in slavery from their children. We separated Japanese internment camp children from their families. And now we separate children from families without water. Water Watch says there's 45,000 households in Detroit without water, and the threat is we'll take your kids if you don't pay your bill, a bill you can't pay. So, yes, we stand against this war that's killing tens of thousands of innocent people. The three things that the Poor People's Campaign works on, because of Dr. King 50 years ago, started the Poor People's Campaign. It was racism, materialism, and militarism. 53 cents out of every one of our tax dollars goes to war, either previous wars or current wars. That's got to stop. We have to stop our participation in this proxy war in Yemen, and we've got to use our influence to bring people to the table. This is not about a political struggle only. It's also a spiritual struggle, which is why I wear this funny costume, so that we know that the church and the synagogue and the mosque have to step up, that this is a moral issue. Dr. Barber, who's the head of the Poor People's Campaign, says the only reason I preach in the sanctuary in here is to get you out there. That otherwise, the preaching does nothing. All we're doing is talking to the choir, but the street is where we belong. 41 states protested together for 40 days to say, and it was blocked out of the media as well, but we can't stop here. We've got to continue to understand this is powers and principalities. It's demonic. Racism is a sin. Racism is a sin no matter whether you're a Muslim or a Christian or a Jew or Baha'i. You have violated your own sacred text. And the people who are in Washington right now, who dare to preach about the scripture to cut off people's benefits, are violating their own faith, violating what they say they believe. So when Mr. Sessions starts quoting the Bible to us about the sin of white supremacy, we hope we don't have people believe that that represents the church. There's a spiritual struggle that all of us need to be in, whether we think of ourselves as atheists or Christians or Jews or Muslims. That spiritual struggle means that when we're together, it's not just the sum of our parts. What happens between us as activists is a spiritual thing. It's the beloved community, and it's more than just you and you and you and you. It is the power of the community that comes together in solidarity, whether we agree with everything that everybody says or not. We spend a lot of time in silos in Detroit, fighting each other, this social justice group against this social justice group. Instead of the 90% of the things we agree with, we spend our time on 10%. Come out of the silos, let us get together, let us be the spiritual people of God. You are all magnificent creatures of the divine. So, this is a little call to affirmation of faith. We're going to speak when the Spirit says speak. And we're going to shout when the Spirit says shout. And we're going to act when the Spirit says act. And obey the Spirit of the divine. We're going to speak when the Spirit says speak. And shout when the Spirit says shout. And act when the Spirit says act. And obey the Spirit of our God.
Can you hear me? My name is Mike Stewart. I'm a teacher here in Hamtramck and also part of the Hamtramck board. And I'm honored to be able to introduce one of our speakers, Imam, Mika'il, Stewart, Saadiq, who is just by way of introduction, Outreach Director of Michigan Muslim Community Council, lifelong Detroiter, educator, activist, and also a former teacher of one of my students, so we share that in common.
Thank you and good evening. Good evening. I want to begin in my capacity as an Imam this evening because it's very important, like the pastor said that spoke before me so powerfully, that we call on our higher power. Amen. So among a bunch of other things that I do, I'm also an Imam. And it's very important that the Yemeni people know that there are American-born Muslims, actually people that were raised Christian, like myself. There's people that don't have any Yemeni member in their family. Well, technically, my son is 1/4 Yemeni from the Zokori family, and I have to get with them later on. We just found that out. But it's very important that my neighbors, my friends, my students, some of my teachers, that you know we are with you. We are with you. We are with you. And it's very important that I say to you what the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said about the Yemeni people. And you can finish it, Saeed, you can finish it with me. Al-Yemeni wal-Iman. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said about the Yemeni people. He said that faith is Yemenite, or faith is Yemeni. Let me give you some more faith and spiritual context to the importance of the Yemeni people. And I know this is not a sermon per se. I know this is not a gathering of worship per se. For those of us who are activist preachers and activist imams, we know we're always in the worship, in the pattern of Muhammad, and in the pattern of Jesus when we do this right here. We know that. But I know this isn't a formal religious setting. So I don't want to bore you, but I have to make these points. In a spiritual lineage, we believe, as in the Bible, that Queen Sheba, where was she from? Yemen. Also, the only Christian empire in Arabia before the advent of Islam was where? Yemen. The first people to gravitate toward the message of Islam in Arabia were who? The Yemeni people. Yes, the first kingdom, that is. So I want to say, and I want everyone to know, everyone that is hearing this, everyone that is recording this, that the Yemeni people are a beautiful people with an ancient lineage. And they are here in our city, in our country, to add to that beauty and that richness that we all call America. We have to say that. We have to say this at our dinner tables, not just when we come to the rallies. We have to let our families know at the dinner table, our children that are in college, we have to let them know 22 million people are affected by this war in Yemen. 22 million. That's all of Michigan, and more than Michigan. Children affected with cholera, starving, 8 million people displaced and more. And I have to tell my Yemeni brothers and sisters, if OneHamtramck and the other organizations can organize this rally so you can feel our love and our support of you, you have to do the same among each other. I don't want to hear about Sunni Shia. I don't want to hear about North Yemen, South Yemen. People are suffering, brothers and sisters. People are suffering. And I know that's my 4 minutes. But I want to let you know I love you. Many of my students are from Yemen, and I know the exact suffering and situations that you're going through. I love you. Thank you for loving me and accepting me into your community and your homes. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Imam Mika'il. The next speaker we have with us is a member of the board of OneHamtramck. He's also a Bangladeshi community activist, former Hamtramck NAACP president, former board of director for Michigan Coalition for Human Rights, and a good friend of mine. I would like to welcome to say a few words, 4 minutes or less. It's Kamal Rahman.
First of all, thank you all for coming and showing your support and showing that you care for people of Yemen. They're our brothers and sisters. They live right here with us, and they have their families. They're suffering. Their suffering is our suffering. Yemeni civil war started in March of 2015. Since then, Yemen has become the battleground for the ideological fight between powers near Yemen and powers far from Yemen. As a result, these powers are taking advantage of the helpless Yemeni people. None of these powers particularly care about the humanitarian issue or people of Yemen. The result of these fights, 20,000 people, 20,000 casualties, and the ensuing famine that resulted from this, from the blockage of food supplies and necessities, 50,000 people died. One of the worst disasters in Yemen history. Yemeni war. The powers are using different methods of destruction on these unarmed civilians and people that really don't care about fighting but want to live a good life. They're using unlawful airstrikes. Hundreds of schools and mosques and religious institutions and educational institutions have been destroyed. People have died, families have destroyed. Landmines, that has the destructive power during the war and after the war, and who knows how long it goes on. They're maiming people. People are dying day in and day out. They can't even go out of the house and go shopping because who knows where they're going to step and die. They're using cluster bombs. The so-called humanitarian champions countries, they banned use of cluster bombs by themselves. But they're supplying those cluster bombs to the Yemen forces that are fighting in Yemen and the coalition. And cluster bombs are so destructive, they're banned. Like I said, they themselves banned them, but they have no problem supplying them to these people that are fighting. Blockage and impeding humanitarian aid. This is the #1 reason for people dying. They don't have supplies of medicine, anesthetics, nothing. They're dying because of lack of supply. In this day and age, people are dying because of this, a man-made disaster. This is not acceptable. And one of the worst sufferers of this war are children. They are not only dying with their families, but they're also being used in this war as soldiers. In fact, a third of these child soldiers, they are children, and many of them are under 15. This is not acceptable. They should be going to school, building their home country, building their lives, and making Yemen and the region better. And let's not forget the longest running war against Yemen are the drone strikes. Since 2002, over 300 strikes have taken place in Yemen. If you're driving down the road and somebody in Florida thinks that you are a terrorist, you are history. This is not acceptable. Over 2,000 people died. Who decides who is living and who is dying? Not somebody in Florida. Let people in Yemen live in peace. And they deserve to live just like people that live here without having to worry about being killed. This war is not about people, but this is about power. This war is not about humanity. but about greed and destroying humanity. Let's stop this war in Yemen now. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Kamal Rahman, who was also a former candidate for mayor of Hamtramck also. Got very close. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're very excited to have with us our next speaker, a young lady who's a founder of Geopolitics Alert, independent world news, where she's documented U.S. imperialism and war crimes in Yemen for over 2 years. I'm just meeting her for the first time, but I've seen her work, and it's amazing. And we're glad to have her with us today. This is Randi Nord, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you for having me here today. It's an honor to speak in this location here in Hamtramck for all of you here. I wanted to start out by mentioning that tomorrow marks the 1200th day that the coalition has launched their war against Yemen. So far, recent figures put the casualty count at 37,000, and over 6,000 of those are children. And here's just a few numbers to, Yemen's a very small country. Here are just a few things that have been destroyed. Over 400,000 homes, 1,000 universities and schools and institutions, 30,000 farms, 1,400 markets and grocery stores, 700 water tanks and pumps, which exacerbates the cholera epidemic, and over 300 medical facilities like hospitals. They recently destroyed a new cholera treatment facility. And the American people would be disgusted if they knew the truth about what the U.S. is doing to Yemen in their name. Not only does the U.S. sell weapons, but they enforce the blockade with naval ships throughout the Red Sea. The numbers I've read off were only from the military strikes and airstrikes and artillery. Tens of thousands more have died from lack of access to food, medical supplies, and basic goods that we all take for granted. Millions face famine, especially as the coalition continues their advances in Hodeidah. Just weeks ago, the Saudi warplanes attacked a bus of refugees fleeing the Saudi airstrikes in Hodeidah. It was about 50 people died. Can you imagine that? People often ask me, why doesn't the United States do more to stop this war? Why don't they send troops? And I have to explain to them that we do have troops there, and our tax dollars are funding this war. And not only that, but the United States provides logistical support to select airstrike targets. The crimes are so heinous, and Yemen gets such minimal media coverage that I feel like people don't even believe me. As Abayomi has mentioned, Yemen's strategically located along the Red Sea, and it's a crucial choke point there for world capital. And that's really the reason the United States has no interest in supporting peace agreements. Like all the other places we find ourselves in war in, Libya and elsewhere, they don't need peace. They just need sectarian conflict and destruction. So that's why we need to keep pushing and fight for Yemen, because the United States government and people running the show aren't going to do anything. And despite this, Yemenis remain resilient, and they will come out of this on top and stronger. So we need to stand up for them till the end. Thank you.
Randi Nord. Check her website, Facebook page, I think it is. Geopolitics Alert. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, this is a variety of opinion. We're not taking sides on the Sunni or the Shia or the Houthi or the Saudi Arabia, but I think we all are against war for sure, and I think we all think that the U.S. is helping maintain the war for Saudi Arabia and proxy, and that we have to get out of there. We have to stop creating wars all around the world. We have to stop the U.S. imperialism. That's essentially what we're here for. That doesn't mean we're defending Houthis or Saudi Arabia or anything. Just take care of our own people and stay out of other people's wars and stop taking their resources and killing millions of people in the world. The next speaker we're going to have with us is from a group called Jewish Voice for Peace. This is one of the vanguard organizations in the Jewish community. This is a fearless organization that has proposed and supported the boycott, divestment, sanction campaign against Israel and what's happening to Palestinians. And we're very excited that we have a speaker from that group today, and he's a good friend too, and this is David Finkel, ladies and gentlemen. He's also the editor of Against the Current. David Finkel.
Thank you very much. I think it's so important that we're all here because certainly we in Jewish Voice for Peace understand the importance of defending all our communities. People have been very eloquent about what's happening to Yemen, and we need to get that word out because the corporate media simply will not talk about the destruction of Yemen. They don't have cameras there, and they don't have that much concern about it. Now, in Jewish Voice for Peace, our central focus is justice and rights for the people of Palestine and peace and justice for the people of Palestine and Israel. But the destruction of Gaza and the destruction of Palestine are not something separate from what is happening to Yemen. It's not separate from what's happening on the border, the detention of children, the sadistic cruelty and unforgivable acts that are being committed against people trying to get into the United States, fleeing the destruction of their countries, which our country did so much to destroy. At least some of that gets on television. So you have to kind of imagine how horrible the situation is in places like Yemen that we don't see. Now, as Jewish Voice for Peace, we have part of a collective memory of what happened in the 1930s when there were restrictive and racist immigration laws in the United States that closed the borders, and that made it impossible for Jews and other people to get out of Europe before the war broke out. And a great many, we know what happened when the war broke out in 1939. It was too late. People were caught in a death trap, and we know what happened. It's very, very important not to let things like that continue and continue and continue to fester. If you'd like to contact Jewish Voice for Peace, you can see me to get on our local mailing list. You can look at jewishvoiceforpeace.org. It's our national list. We are involved in the boycott, divestment, sanctions movement, and we have a local campaign that we're organizing, which we hope we'll be able to let you know about soon. In the meantime, we must continue to protect all of our communities. And let's not forget, people have spoken about a lot of things, let's not forget people who have escaped from Yemen and can't get into this country because they're trapped in places like Djibouti, they're trapped by the Muslim ban. These issues are not separate, and we must not forget that. Thank you.
Thank you, David Finkel from Jewish Voice of Peace. We had another minute, David. You want to come up and talk? Finish? Okay, fine. Okay, you did a 3-minute talk. All right. Once again, we want to thank you all for being here. This is a very, very important audience. Thank you so much for supporting this subject. And we want to let you know that there's a little board here that we created that we're going to put out here for all of you to sign if you want to in support of the Yemeni people. You can put your name on it that you were here today. We're going to put it up in a restaurant for a while so that people will know you were here and that you support this issue. So we're going to take a little break from the speeches right now. We have a special cultural element of this program.